So a round of applause for all of you singing along. And we're starting a band. We're always starting a band here at the temple, so everyone is always welcome. This is the man to be in touch with. Natabar, he can plug you in, and you can be part of an ongoing band which does music every day.
Yeah, every day. You can join the WhatsApp group and get the notification.
Okay.
See the afterwards.
Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome everybody to the Darshan room. Thank you for the welcome that Nityananda did for me. I've been coming to New York last 5 years or so in the summer. So this is almost like home away from home. And I come at the right time when winter kicks off in South Africa. I say bye. And I come here and it's continuation of some warm weather. So yes, name is Savya Sachidas by way of initiation, but somehow or the other, because of social media, I've branded myself Savya the Monk. And even formal gatherings now, they introduce me with the Savya the Monk. So I have no complaints about it. Our topic today is consciousness and conscience. Consciousness is a popular phrase. Of course, the scientific community also speaks of how they cannot really account for what consciousness is. They have no instruments to measure it, yet we can detect that someone has lost consciousness, and ultimately we can detect a living body and a dead body, that there's no more consciousness there. There can be many factors that are included in what's missing to create death. Some want to talk about the oxygen, it's not there, many things. But from the traditional wisdom cultures, we understand what makes a living being is conscious energy, which is known as spiritual energy, and matter, which makes the physical body. So if we would use the analogy of the computer age, so we liken the physical body as the hardware of a computer. And then there's a subtle body, which is the mind and the intelligence. And that can be likened to the software. It's in there, it's a bit intangible, but we know that something is working because some programs are running. And so you have the hardware and you have the software. Still, that computer is not complete without a user. So the living being, you and I, are then the user of this hardware, this body, and the mind and the intellect. So unfortunately though, that we have now come to a point where we identify ourselves with the hardware and the software. A lot of us speak like this, especially we express ourselves around what we feel. I feel like this. Because it is explained in the programming, the software, the mind, 3 divisions are there. Thinking, willing, and feeling. But the feeling aspect is much more effective to us. We are very much affected by our feelings. Sometimes there's so much love or affection we're feeling that we don't even have to speak. person can understand. And then sometimes the feelings change so much that we're screaming, the person's right in front of us, and still there's no understanding, no connection. So the users are both there, the feelings are changing. When the feelings are positive, the relationship flows very well. In the language of the Gita, it says, Indriyani paranahu, indriyabhyat paramana, manasas tu parabuddhi, yo buddhi paratas tu sa. It says, the body is the lowest aspect of our makeup, physical matter. Higher than the body is the mind. And higher than the mind is the intellect. And highest is the soul. So again, similar thing, hardware, software, and the user. So now, this user, in the language of most cultures, sometimes the semantics vary and people argue, we'll call the self the soul or the spirit soul. Other teachings may refer to the soul as something else, but for the purpose of our discussion, we are referring to the user, you and I. So, symptoms that the user is within the body is that there is awareness as consciousness. Once the consciousness is not there, even if I give it a kick, the body is just, people would think, what a cruel guy. He's sick in the head, kicking a dead body. But there's no one who will protest in that body. And the principle of beauty and attraction is also coming from the user. Once the soul is there, even Miss Universe, people can't stand being in a room with a dead body. Even your own beloved people sometimes throw up. Why they can't handle it? It's the same person last week that we were like professing love to. So the attractive principle, the spiritual spark, once it's not there, then the biology is not so attractive to other users, except a few crazy French types. We don't want to dwell into. They do exist. So the soul, the symptoms of presence of the soul is consciousness. Just to make it a little bit more vivid, since we live in such an image-driven world. The Bhagavad Gita again. If you haven't noticed, I'm promoting the Bhagavad Gita. If you don't have one, get one. So in this beautiful book, in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, there's an analogy that's made to highlight this point. That just as the sun alone illuminates the whole universe by its heat and light, similarly, the soul illuminates the body with consciousness. So each person is aware of their own situation, their own bodily pains and pleasures. Therefore, Bob Marley said, every man thinks his burden is the heaviest. And we're at a time where we can really take shelter of identifying even with our burdens. And the more we do that, the more heavy they get, mystically. In the spiritual culture, is that when you try to remove yourself, not really denying your situation, but trying to have a broader picture of others and try to serve, you find your own burdens become a little lighter because we're not meditating on them so much. So, consciousness, symptom of the soul or the living being. So that consciousness can be likened to like a ray of light. If you had kids, they have these laser pointers. Sometimes they point them right into your eye. So, the Vedic literature goes into description of the soul, and it gets into the dimensions of the soul. This is crazy. It says if you could take the tip of your hair and you could cut it up into 100 pieces, and then take one piece, cut that piece up again 100 times, that is the size of the soul, you and I. So we're really tiny. I don't know why we're so puffed up. But it comes from our connection to something really big, something really powerful. There is a supreme soul. And that supreme soul, just as the one soul is aware of this body, then there's a soul that is aware of all bodies. So we have the same qualities as that supreme being. And just like the son of a rich man tends to have a little bounce in his step, that rascal, because he's got money. Well, what can you do? He's got money. Everyone wants money, so he's got it, so he feels a little cocky about it. They even say, you don't know who I am? Like, dude, if you don't know who you are, how can we help you? So our connection to the Supreme Powerful, although we are part of that, we find that there's that part of us where we think ourselves more than our current circumstances, because actually the soul is much more than what the body is offering. It's actually an embarrassing situation for the soul to be stuck in this. We like our bodies, what to do. We try our best to keep them presentable, clean, but they are not the best expression of our lives. There is a spiritual dimension to life which we aspire for. So maybe we've sort of defined consciousness in some way. So conscience. So a quality of the consciousness is that it has like a moral compass, the ability to decide if this is right or wrong. So that is then the conscience. And we all have this experience, hopefully, where there's this voice, almost very faint, telling us, don't do this. And then there comes a louder voice, and then we do whatever that loud voice said. And then later on, most of the time, consequence comes and you remember, something told me not to do that. But I never listened. Look where I am now. So that can be spoken of at two levels. Although for the purpose of our discussion, we will focus on one branch. Just for naming's sake, there's an aspect of the Supreme, the Divine, within the heart of everyone, who's like a friend, a guide, a well-wisher. And then within us also, because we are living beings, we also have that sort of GPS that is there, that conscience. But because of life in this world, our consciousness and our conscience can become polluted. We will do a thought exercise. So at the traffic light, and if you ever go to South Africa, we call them robots. It will be like when they talk of traffic light, at the robot, that's what they call it, robot. So I have to always adjust. They say at the robot, so the people like, at the robots? So at the traffic lights, what color is the light there? For a quick $50, just raise your hand.
Red.
Red.
Yellow. Green.
Yellow. Green.
White.
Wrong.
White. Or clear. Or white.
Yes. You've heard this before, someone, but you. Yeah, very good. No, because we're discussing the subject, yes, computing. So yes, the light is always clear. But we're experiencing the light through the green lens, the red, and the yellow lens. And so we tag it as yellow, red, or green. It's useful. Don't go there in a red light and say, well, it's clear. It's not really red. But behind the conditioning of the light, behind those lenses, it's a clear light. So behind whatever it is that we are wearing, body, the narratives we've heard, where we've grown up, there is an eternal being who is not necessarily part of this world completely. So consciousness can be conditioned, can be polluted. The light can be changed. And also our conscience can be also changed. As an example, so most of us, it's an assumption, grew up in meat-eating family, turkey, Thanksgiving. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. And then later on in our lives, maybe you discover maybe there's a better way of living in this world, less harm, maybe become a vegetarian, a vegan. And when you start doing that, you may feel a little guilty. And when you visit home or something and everyone is like kind of harassing you, you don't eat meat, what's going on with you, I know where I come from, practically everywhere, Southern Africa, Africa. People pride themselves with two things. We drink, we are like the best at drinking, or we really eat meat. So whether it's Zulus or Sutus or Xhosas, whoever it may be, we drink. So if someone stops doing those, then it's almost like you've become a non-entity, you're no longer part of us. What type of Swazi doesn't drink? What type of Zulu doesn't eat meat? So although you understand that this expression of life is much more humane and broad-minded and compassionate, and your conscience tells you don't do that, but still, because of the conditioning, we may feel some type of guilt. So everyday life creates a situation of crowded consciousness. There's so many things are coming in through the senses. So the mind is really needing a lot of compute power to deal with all of these things coming in. And because of all this that's coming in, we are exhausted, we're stressed. We want to take a time out. We're at the Darshan room, for a little cleansing, uplifting. Hey, that's good. Some people don't give themselves that chance. They think, I have to tough it out and I'll figure it out. I'll do what others have been doing, but I'll get it right. So, but we have to change something so that circumstances change. So when our consciousness is crowded, then our conscience also becomes clouded. Then we're not able to focus on the main things that have to do with the user. We put ourselves, the user, aside, and we focus on the deadlines, and when I should post, how many people like my post, so many things. Therefore, there's always a call for human beings to simplify their lives. So this simplifying your life doesn't mean, well, it can mean these days off-grid is also that you can do it. But it means also in one sense here in New York City, if you regulate your activities. Simplify could be, here's one example. I own like maybe 4 of these robes and shirt. So every day it's just a matter of getting a clean one. So now if you've got 200 outfits, I mean, they all nice and everything. And every day you have to spend like however long to pick and choose what will work. First, how am I feeling? Where am I going? Who am I going to see? What best brings out my... So that's creating a lot of crowd and bustle in the consciousness. So you can simplify like that. If also every day you have to think about what time should I go to bed? What time will I wake up? Each day it just varies. Sometimes when we're going to bed, people are waking up. Or sometimes we in the mornings we wake up, only then people are like crawling back home to sleep. We did this, we're doing this. So simplifying your life would mean you set a time when you go to bed. Be like 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever it is, have a time to get up. Then what happens, your system becomes trained. It's time to rest. You get your rest, it's time to get up. But if it's everywhere all the time, that also clouds our conscience in terms of what is my program for happiness, for peace. So these are some points we want to bring out, that ultimately this is now wisdom texts. Even religious persons would say that there is God who is the conscience of all. Just like there's the American Constitution. And my rights, how many? 11, there's all these amendments, and people, sometimes they plead the fifth. It's just my constitutional right. So we always have to take guidance from a tried and tested way or some sort of law books. Education system is full of syllabuses. So similarly, the syllabuses for what a human being should do for his highest good, humanity also has these. And so we have to, if we're actually interested in the self, in our own happiness, consult these types of books and learn how to use the hardware and software that is unique to a human being. The animals don't have it. So it's specifically given to the human being so that they can adjust themselves to achieve these sometimes crazy aspirations like unconditional love. Anyone here who's opposed to unconditional love, like just against that thing? Who here has experienced that this love thing? It's causing me doubts that it exists. I put myself out there, I wore my heart on my sleeve, I opened myself up and So on a personal note, we have these experiences, this seems to be no unconditional love. As a group, we're all feeling like, it sounds like a scam, but we still want it. We still believe in it. Yes, because it is a part of our higher nature and experience as spiritual beings. We are from that land of unconditional love. Therefore, we look for what is familiar, what is natural. But we are in a changed position, conditioned world, where the conditions always come and mess up the ideal. So, getting our consciousness a little purified, cleansed, sharpened, removing the clutter, something like mantra meditation is for that. I end with one story. We were doing such kirtan in a yoga studio, something like this. bigger situation. And as you can tell, the instruments can start getting really loud. And at feedback time, which we're about to get into, we asked, so what was your experience? What's your feelings? How do you feel? And one of the ladies there said, I was really disturbed. Your advert said meditation. And then I'm in here and it's just like getting loud. And then, but something mystical happened. With all that loudness, I started feeling the most calm that I've ever been. He said, even in my own car, I can't find peace. I try the radio, I try to switch the radio off. It's always just, my mind is in clutter and it's all loud. So then we explained that the sound is just vehicles to transport the main sound vibration, this mantra. We're just trying to give it a beat as it dances into your heart, But because that sound is spiritual, that's what creates that environment where all of a sudden you feel peaceful. You can sort of identify, even though you cannot explain to yourself intellectually. So we appreciate all of you. I feel that we are now part of the family of souls that are trying to improve themselves, owning up that we need assistance. Thank you for your ear.